We're live.
All right, I think I got everything. We're a little rushed tonight. No, you know, we have coming in a little while is David Dewhurst. He's putting that new book together, The Golden Era of Motocross, and he's got a really great event coming up. I'll be telling everybody about it. We're going to have him live on the show. Little split screen thing that where you can hear him, and it's going to be good.
Have a nigga holler at me.
Yes, we have a random share giveaway winner tonight again. Susan Cash was the winner last week. We gave her a Marty Smith poster, some stickers, and a DVD too, like this one. Yeah. People like to win stuff. All right. Gotta go. Good evening, everyone. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. I'm your host, Joe Abadi. Thank you, Jordan and Chelsea. Susie, for helping me put the show together tonight. And thank you, the viewers at home, for joining us like you do every Wednesday at 6. Jordan, let's get down to the starting line, and I'll tell our viewers what they're going to see tonight on the show. The starting line is, of course, brought to you by Motion Pro for quality tools, cables, and controls. Be sure to visit Motion Pro online at motionpro.com. And the next time try this segment, I'm going to give you some tips about oil in your Bultaco, or oil in any bike for that matter. We got a great bike in the Moto Showcase tonight, sent in by Matt Erdos, Kawasaki. Brad Lackey's got something to do with it. I'll be telling you about it in just a minute. And here's the problem segment. Great questions this week coming to you in just a few minutes. What's it worth? An NOS 73 CZ250. I'll be telling you about that and give you an opportunity to guess how much that bike sold for recently on eBay. Matt Erdos also sent in a video in the expansion chamber. A nice little comparison thing we got coming up for you. Don't forget to keep sharing the show, whether you're on Facebook or you are on YouTube. Share the show. Let your friends know that you're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. And don't forget, if you're on YouTube, to comment Motion Pro. The best way to watch this show, not only on Facebook, but of course on
What's the prize
YouTube.
tonight?
Keep sharing it. We'll have a random share giveaway winner a little bit later on. But as I was saying, the best way to watch the show is on YouTube. Just like that. You can see all of our shows if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of our shows from Vintage Motocross Q&A, and also all of our interviews that we've done on Vintage Motocross Radio, which we're back on the air with again this week. You subscribe, you'll get a little alert like that. You can sit back on your couch like a professional. You can comment through your phone, watch the show in HD on a big screen while your wife serves your beer and sandwiches, or maybe you should get a beer and sandwich yourself and sit there without disturbing anyone. That's the way an expert would watch Vintage Motocross Q&A. As always, I want to thank all of our sponsors, Motion Pro, Vinco, Racer X, Preston Petty Products, Sunrise Vapor Blasting, Golden Products, Full Circle Racing, and of course, Northwest Mako CZ. The next time try this segment is brought to you by Vinco. Keep the ride going. We recently had a question that pertained to engines that have a separate transmission from the clutch, where you use different oils in the clutch as you do the transmission. So we were putting together this Bultaco, and I thought it might be a good time to tell you a little bit about that. It pertains particularly to the Bultaco engine, but for any of your bikes that have a separate transmission oil from their clutch oil, this is something that would apply to you as well. On a freshly rebuilt Bultaco engine, you should use 600 cc's of synthetic weight oil, and 80 to 90 weight would be good. Now that's on an engine that's dry and freshly rebuilt. On your oil change, if you're just doing an oil change, you'd only need 400 cc's, use a quality oil, and make sure you have a little measuring cup just like this. On a new engine in just the clutch area of your Bultaco, 400 cc's of 20 to 50 weight oil would be great. That's what you should be using. In the gearbox, you can go 2 or 3 races without changing it, or a day of racing. But on the clutch, they recommend, and I talked to Woody Graves about this, a Bultaco specialist, they really recommend that you change the clutch oil after every race. Not every race all day, but at the end of the day. So you can go 2 or 3 races on the transmission, but the clutch oil should be changed every day. And remember, you want to add a little bit more. Where it says 400 cc's, you want to go to 600 cc's in the transmission. So that's a little tip for you Bultaco guys. I hope you enjoyed that. And don't forget, go visit Vintco. Keep the ride going. Keep the ride going with Vintco. As we just mentioned in the Next Time Try This segment, this week's special is a Mako 490 1981-1982 top-end piston kit. It's 87 millimeter. It also comes in a 0.5 millimeter overboard. The 214.95 Vintco has the all-new top-end piston kits that can help you keep your ride going. This complete top-end kit comes with everything you need to rebuild your top end, and you can make it easy and cost-effective. The kit includes a high-quality Vintco piston kit, the rings, the clips, the top end bearing, everything you need, including a variety of gaskets. And as always, all of Vintco's equipment is always made to standard specs, but even better than OEM. With a better fitment, you're going to get a better performance out of your bike when you use a top end kit from Vintco. That's for the 81 490 214.95. Vintco, keep the ride going. In the Moto Showcase tonight, which is sponsored by Preston Petty Products, we've got a really great bike that was sent in by Matt Erdos. Jordan's going to go through the slides. I'm going to read to you a little bit about it. It's a 73 F12M 450. It is a limited production model. Kawasaki decided to get very, very serious about designing a very competitive motocross bike that could compete against the Europeans and the Japanese back in that day. In October of 71, they began development of the F12M in Santa Ana, California, in their R&D department, which was led by Sid Saito. Jerry Marcel was in charge of engineering, and Brad Lackey and John DeSoto were the test riders at that time. Later on in the U.S., there were also some test rides given by Jim Cook and Brian Farnsworth. A select group of U.S. manufacturers were also chosen to be a part of the development of this bike, including Unifilter, which made the levers for it. They also brought in Daryl Bassani, who made the pipe. Now, out of this came a really different type of prototype works bike, and it ultimately led to Brad Lackey winning the 1972 AMA National Championship. In 73, they decided to build a limited number of these bikes, and only about 200 were built and given to select dealers. It makes the bike quite rare. We're not so sure 200 were made. They say there were 200, but anyway, it's a very rare bike. Matt purchased this bike in 2019. It was in beautifully restored condition when he received it. The only thing he changed on it was the seat cover and the grips, which he replaced. The grips were NOS. And he said he was able to get a tank decal set from Mark Hildebrand at Nightmare Racing. This is one of his favorite bikes. And Matt says that he's happy to share it with us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Matt, thanks so much for sending in that very rare and unusual Kawasaki. If you send me your address, I'll be happy to get you a nice gift, compliments of Preston Petty Products. Speaking of Preston Petty Products, we've got 2 fenders and a jersey for just $129.95. This deal caught my eye on their website, which is vast with every product they make. It caught my eye because it's a translucent fender. Okay, so they make them translucent, but they also make them in all the other popular colors: red, orange, yellow, silver, and a variety of other things. And it comes with a jersey for just $129.95. So be sure to go visit their website, PrestonPettyProducts.com. You can also see them on Instagram and, of course, here on Facebook. So thank you, Paul Stannard, for all you do for us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. And if anybody out there is looking for some translucent fenders, Preston Petty's got them, just like you see right here in the picture. And here's the problem segment tonight, which is sponsored by Motion Pro. Let's get down to some of the questions and we'll see if we can't get some answers. Jordan, what do we got up first? Mike Conley, I'm finding fine dirt in my carb to air boot rubber. I run a twin air cleaner. I clean and oil them regularly with grease on both sides of the foam. What am I doing wrong? Well, Mike, I know you're a pretty seasoned professional when it comes to vintage motocross, and you're a drag racer, and you've got a lot of experience in the shop. But sometimes even the trained eye can miss something. Here's what I would suggest you look at first. In this picture, you can see someone has put a Mikuni carburetor on a CZ. Sometime when you change the intake, it does change the level of the carburetor a little bit. Sometimes it might be sitting a little higher or a little lower than you think. And that air boot is just sitting a little bit higher and maybe has a little passage going through there that air and some dirt are getting in. Something else I want you to consider. On the back of your carburetor, the bell may be one size and that air boot is just a little bit too big. Yes, we put a clamp on it, we run that clamp down, and hopefully it makes a good seal around it. But sometimes, and it could be somewhere around that air boot, that it was just a little bit too big, and maybe it's pinching it, maybe it's folding over somewhere just a little bit, and you're getting a little dirt through there when you're riding the bike. Another good way to check this is, of course, start it up, spray a little WD-40 in there, and see if you could see it being sucked in through that air boot. That's a good way to check it too. But other than that, the only other thing I could think of is maybe your filter isn't sitting flat and squarely in your original air box. Maybe it's time to take a look in there. You say you got grease on both sides of the filter, so process of elimination tells me it's one of those three things. But I appreciate the question, Mike, and when you get to the bottom of it, I'd really like for you to get in touch with me and let me know what the problem was. Thanks for the question, Mike Conley. Craig Smolin, I purchased a small parts washer, but it seems to be only water-based solvents available, which are useless. Fumes are an issue for me. What would you suggest I use? Yeah, fumes can be an issue, especially in a smaller shop. If you live in an area where the weather does change in the winter and you want to wash parts, it's not always so easy. Keeping the doors and windows or doors open in your shop while you're using stuff. What I would recommend, okay, because yeah, none of those water-based solvent things are any good, especially for the old vintage motocross guys like us, where there's gas and oil on the engine, it's getting hot, mud is getting baked on there. There's only one thing that's really going to get something off like that, and it could be a petroleum-based liquid. What I would recommend is one of these two things. PSC 1000. This stuff is available at Tractor Supply. It's relatively inexpensive, and it doesn't put off a lot of fumes. So you can check into that at Tractor Supply. Varsol has also become a little bit more mainstream. You can buy it in some of your home improvement stores. I remember where I used to get it when I lived back in the Northeast. I was able to buy it from an oil and fuel oil distributor. And it was relatively inexpensive back then. It was a great way to clean parts. And also, it really put off no fumes. So I would check into either that PSC 1000 or Varsol, but before you go buy Varsol in one of those home improvement places, see if you can find it online or through a local fuel distributor in your area. You'll get it at a much more reasonable price. Thanks for the question, Craig. And in a couple of weeks, Craig, I'm going to have that Benelli buzzer on the show too that you sent me in some pictures of. Bob Harris, I have a very nice 74 Honda CR125 Survivor with an exceptionally low serial number 1001881. There's a very low serial number, add to the value of the bike. Unfortunately, Bob, it doesn't. I've seen some bikes with some very low serial numbers. The ones that really get the people's attention are the first one and the last one. And while your bike may be beautiful and it may have a very low serial number, which can make for some interesting conversation at time, it doesn't really add value to the bike. What do we got next, Jordan?
I'm Dave Arnold. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A with Joe Abadi. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Jeff with Motion Pro, introducing you to the Masterlink Press Tool. Now, the Masterlink Press Tool is an innovative addition to our wide variety of chain tools here at Motion Pro, and what makes this tool so unique is that it both presses on and presses off Masterlink side plates. It's designed to be used with all 50 series clip-style links and performs the job very easily. The Masterlink press tool is constructed with a billet aluminum body and hardened steel pins for long-lasting durability. It's affordably priced at $28.99 and is available from your favorite dealers nationwide.
Oh, we've got David Tugans. Caught me off guard here a little bit. David, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. And now I've lost you, Joe. I've lost you, Joe.
Gordon, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. No, gone again. That's no. It was
The host has unmuted your mic.
okay. I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now, David?
I can hear you now.
Great. If you could speak a little bit louder, we'll be able to hear you a little bit better as well. Tell me about this event you have coming up at Glen Helen Raceway in June.
Yeah, it's called the Motocross Revival. It's as you say on June 6th at Glen Helen on the national tracks or even the big tracks. Open to all bikes, all riders, anybody, new bikes, old bikes, anybody can be involved.
David,
I've lost you again, Joe. I'm sorry. Just gone again.
can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. That's perfect.
Tell me what this event, how it came about. Was this your idea or you had some people involved with you?
It was, it was a combined idea originally. I was talking to David Bailey during my book, and we were talking about racing in the past, and we both have this real interest in trying to do an event that was beyond just a race. We wanted to really recreate a vintage motocross race and create an atmosphere that you would all recognize instantly from the 70s or 80s.
I see.
We tried to organize that at a bunch of tracks, tried to do the Trans AMA tracks and stuff, and we just couldn't get the tracks to work. And eventually, David kind of got frustrated with it. Then I teamed up with Rick Doughty, a longtime friend of mine, Vintage Iron, and we kind of took the idea a little bit further and opened it up rather than just the vintage bikes to modern bikes as well as vintage bikes. But we want to create this real feeling of an old racetrack, an old event, bring back all those happiness, not just a race. So we're going to have an area with box vans set up an area. We're going to have vintage bikes set up around there. Honda's bringing along some bikes. Kawasaki's bringing along some bikes. So if you're a Jimmy Weiner fan or a David Bailey fan or a Hoodies
Sure.
fan, they're going to have all those bikes there. We're going to have set up a pit area and make it recreate the feel of a 70s race event.
Now, David, people, as far as racing goes, people will be able to sign up that day for the race?
Correct. It's sign up on the day. There is no pre-event sign up. You can go to American Retrocross and look on their website to see all the details about the classes and all the different racetracks.
And David, is this also to raise money for an organization?
Yes, it is. The main goal here is to raise money for Road to Recovery to help all the riders who get injured, unfortunately, every day, it seems these days.
Okay. And once again, the date is?
June the 6th. June the 6th, Sunday, out there at Glen Helen. We're also going to have a big bike show, a big vintage bike show. Langston Motorsports is helping support this. So we're looking to have over 100 bikes, maybe 150 bikes there if we're lucky. And then we're going to have a bunch of riders too. We're going to have Gary Jones, James Bailey, Rick Johnson, Gary Langston, Tommy Croft, and a few others lining up. So we'll have a lot of top riders.
So the bike show is on Saturday at Langston's and the race is on Sunday?
The whole thing is at the track on Sunday. We're going to have
Oh, okay.
yeah. So the bike event is going to be in the big museum down there at the track. So the museum's going to be filled with bikes, and then they'll be spilling out onto the pit area outside there as well.
David Dewhurst, thanks for taking the time to speak to me, and I am waiting with bated breath for the golden era of motocross book to arrive.
Me too. Thanks a lot, Joe.
You're welcome, David. Thanks again.
Bye.
Days they'll be racing. It's just going to be a great time, including a bike show with the Langstons, and who doesn't want to be there to see that? Jordan, great job there. Thanks again, David Dewhurst. What do we have up next, Jordan? In the What's It Worth segment tonight, sponsored by Glen Products, we're going to take a look at a bike that recently sold on eBay. And Jordan's going to bring up that slide, and I'll tell you a little bit about this bike. There wasn't a whole lot of information on this, but it is a 1973 CZ250. And as I go through this and talk to you a little bit about the bike, I would like your best guesstimate on what this bike sold for. Keep in mind, we're all hearing about the Mika motorcycle auction and so many other sales these days going on. But this bike, according to the seller, was brand new, never started. He says here that he doesn't have a title for the bike, bill of sale only. He's owned the bike for a long time, to the best of his knowledge. And when he bought the bike, which was 10 years ago, it was said to have never been started, and no one's ever used it. It is a 250. He's moving to a smaller home. He wanted to get rid of the bike quickly, so he put it on eBay. I don't believe there was a very, very high reserve on the bike. So the bike looked original to me looking at it. I've seen NOS 73 CZ250s before, and this bike does look to be on the money between the strap and the band going around the tank, the levers, the controls, the tires. Everything about it appeared to be OEM and untouched bike. So it recently sold on eBay. I'd like you to guess what you think it sold for if you haven't been putting your guess in there. What do you say? 5,000? 7,000, 8,000. This bike sold for $7,200, which I thought was a really great deal. Maybe not as desirable as a 74 or a Falta, maybe even not quite as desirable these days as a toaster tank bike, a 71 or a 72. But here we have it, $7,200 for a brand new bike sold on eBay. The seller was from Texas, by the way, if that matters. I'm not so sure. But there you have it, $7,200 and NOS OEM CZ250. If you want to know the value of your bike, you could always go over to the Vintage Motocross Buyers and Sellers Price Guide page, post a picture of your bike or 6 or 7 of them, and you'll get some respective responses from the members over there. Also, if you're selling a bike, you could also post it there, not for sale there, but just post it that you're interested in buying it along with the price, and you'll get some feedback and you'll get some knowledgeable guys telling you what the value of that bike should be. Also, that page is just chock full of recent auction results and private sales results. So you can always go to the album section and see maybe the bike that you have and what it recently sold for. The Vintage Motocross Buyers and Sellers Price Guide page on Facebook for over 6 years now. Glen Products. You hear me talk about this filter every week. I've got one right here. I use one on bikes. It really is the last filter you're ever going to buy. It comes apart. It's got a little filter in there that really cuts the dust or the dirt down to 10 microns. If you don't know what 10 microns is, you can't even see it with your eye, okay? But they come in different colors, blue, orange, red. Of course, the silver. These are good on vintage and modern bikes as well. Glen Products is making these not only for adventure bikes, but street bikes, for minis, for super minis, and just about everything across the board that burns gasoline. And they're now looking for freelance and independent people to represent their line. So if you have a shop or you're on the road representing other lines of motorcycle parts, you should get a hold of Glen Products at golenpro@yahoo.com. This is the last filter you're ever going to buy, and believe me, it's a filter that sells itself. Anybody I show it to immediately wants to know where to get it. I've always sent them out to Glen to take a look at it, and they usually wind up buying one. So I want to thank Glen Products for being a sponsor of the show, and also for this great product that is now being used by a lot of manufacturers including KTM, Kawasaki, and a few others. They're available all over Europe, Asia, and of course, North America, Canada, and Mexico. Thank you, Will and Glen, for all you do for us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Have you ever heard of is brought to you by Sunrise Vapor Blasting. And I want to bring you a bike this week, and I want to know if you have ever heard of a Scott Flying Squirrel. You probably haven't. This isn't your average vintage motocross bike. It is a little bit different, but I'd like to expand the horizons of my viewers here on the show. And what really caught my eye at this bike is I had seen it in person at the Barber Museum in Alabama. And the first time I saw it, I had to go back and check it out again because I couldn't believe some of the things I was seeing. Anyway, I'll tell you a little bit about it. The Scott motorcycle started being built in 1921. And the development of this bike featured some things that had never been seen before, including a 3-speed transmission. And if you look closely, this bike also has telescopic forks, something that had not been seen on bikes at that time. Yes, at the top, it does have a spring, but if you look closely, you'll see that just under the fender, it does have a telescopic fork. Something else very, very interesting about this bike, it's a 2-stroke, 2-cylinder. And if you look close again, it's water-cooled. Water-cooled in 1923, and it's just incredible. And they raced a variation of this bike at the Isle of Man in 1929. It was known as the Flying Squirrel. There's a lot to be seen about this bike, and a lot of things that were so advanced for time. So if you get a moment, go on Google, put in Scott Flying Squirrel, and you'll see all the little things that went on with this bike way back in the 20s that really didn't come full circle again, like water cooling. Okay, we all got excited when we saw Bob Hanna's bike in '76, the OW up at Hangtown. It was water cooled. It was 125. Here it is, 1923. What's old is new again, and so many things that we see on modern bikes today were tried in some variation way back when. Sunrise Vapor Blasting, the best way to clean your parts. Get them over to Mark Forrester. He's got a beautiful tank, makes parts come out like new, whether it's aluminum and whether it's for your car, for your motorcycle, for your boat, whatever it is, vapor blasting is the way to go. Does a great job. Nothing gets it as clean as vapor blasting does, and it doesn't hurt the metal. It also doesn't change anything inside your carburetor. You don't have to worry about the jet passages or any of that being damaged. The bike, the carburetor will come out beautiful. The brass, the fittings, everything about it. So, Mark Forrester up in Modesto, get a hold of him and visit Sunrise Vapor Blasting on Facebook to learn more about the services that he's offering. Thank you, Mark, for all you do for us here at the show. The expansion chamber tonight is brought to you by Full Circle Racing. We've got a great little video that was sent in to us by Matt Erdos. Here it is, Matt Erdos. From the bike we saw a little bit earlier in the show. I'm going to put this video in. Let's hear about what Matt Erdos has to say.
Today we're going to be looking at the difference between the control levers on the 1973 Kawasaki F12 M450 limited production motocrosser and its successor, the 1974 KX450. We'll start with the F12M. The F12M was developed out in Kawasaki's Santa Ana, California R&D facility, and they had a lot of American manufacturers assisting them in the development. One of them was Unifilter, who also made the Unilevers, and that's what they decided to put on these bikes, the plastic unbreakable Unilevers, levers and perches. So Unilever built these levers and then shipped them to Japan, where they were put on the bike in assembly. You can see the perches are a 2-piece design with 4 Phillips head screws that clamp them on. About 200 were built in 1973. Now we'll look at the levers on the 74 KX450. It was one model year, the successor to the F12M. These were fitted with the kind of typical aluminum Kawasaki levers and perches. The perches had the single bolt kind of crimping style in the back. And these were shared by a lot of the other KXs, these same levers and perches. I believe the 75 and 70, 74, 75, and 76 KX 250 had them. And I do believe the 125s were pretty much the same. I know the levers were the same, but perches look the same to me, but I'm uncertain whether they're exactly the same. They had a different Kawasaki part number, but as we know, that doesn't necessarily make the part different. So there are the aluminum levers on the 74 KX 450.
Matt Erdos, great job showing us the comparison between the levers on those two very different Kawasaki's. And I want to thank Matt Erdos for sending that in. I love the sound of his voice too. Very Morgan Freeman and Shawshank Redemption, directed to the point. Great job, Matt. And if you want to send in more videos, we welcome them at any time. Great job. What's up next, Jordan? Full Circle Racing, still running that great special. Powder coating your hubs. You send them up to Tom McAllister. He'll clean them, disassemble them, blast them, mask them, and he'll powder coat them for you. Okay? For just $10 more, he'll do the brake plate as well. This is in gloss black and satin black. If you want a custom color, there's a one-time fee of just $20. What better way is there to get your wheels back together than sending them up to Tom McAllister and Full Circle Racing? Send them the hubs, have them lace up some new rims, spokes, true them for you. You get back a brand new set of wheels for your bike. And for that special, it's only just $50 a hub. Thanks, Tom McAllister, for all you do for us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. We're going to take a commercial break. Don't forget to keep sharing the show. When we get back, we'll have tonight's random share giveaway winner.
Classic and vintage dirt bikes are more than a hobby. It's not just about the ride. It's about the work that goes in. The work that keeps you connected to the ride. It's about bringing the bike back to life and doing it with your own hands. It's about the adrenaline and adventure. And when it comes to putting all the pieces together, only Vinco knows the bikes and parts the way you do. Vinco, keep the ride going.
Tonight's random share giveaway winner is Kim Pinnell. Kim Pinnell, if you're still watching the show, inbox me, send me a private message. You are the winner of the Marty Smith DVD. Kim Pinnell, you're the random share giveaway winner tonight. Thanks for watching the show, Kim, and for sharing it. This Week in Motocross History is brought to you by Racer X, one of the finest motocross publications on your newsstand now, also available online. Racer X. This Week in Motocross History, in 1984, Johnson wins the battle, but O'Mara wins the war. Team Yamaha's Ricky Johnson won the Orlando Supercross, round 9 of the Sports Wrangler Supercross Championship. The Honda trio of Lachine, Bailey, and O'Mara followed in the 20-lap main event. The consistently fast O'Mara with the remaining 47-point lead in the standings as he raced into the 84 Supercross Championship. So Johnson did win that day, but it was O'Mara who won the championship that year. In 1979, Ken Howerton wins at Southwick, the 250 National, and local hero Mike Gurra on Husqvarna and New York KTM rider Frank Stacy were also there. Series points leader Bob Hanna finished 10th overall after breaking his pinky on a fence in the first moto. Should also mention that at Southwick, there was a 500cc National that day, and Danny Laporte went 1-1. In 1997, Doug Henry wins Vegas on a 4-stroke. Yep, and what would turn out to be the single most pivotal moment in the history, if not only AMA Supercross, but the motorcycle industry in general. Team Yamaha's Doug Henry won the season-ending Las Vegas Supercross on a prototype Yamaha 400cc four-stroke. It was the AMA Supercross debut for that bike. And the rest, as they say, is history when it comes to four-strokes in Supercross and Motocross. In the announcements tonight, Jordan, what do we have up first? VMX Radio is back. We got a great show last week. We're going to be bringing you another one this week, so don't forget. You don't only have to listen on Facebook or on YouTube. You can go to a Spotify. You can go to a lot of different podcast channels that we are on now. So don't forget to tune in Sundays at 11 a.m. for the live show, and then you can listen anytime after that. You entered the first AMA national race in April of '72. It was at Road Atlanta, and you won. In fact, you won that race and the second race at DeSoto Cycle Ranch the next month. My question was originally, did racing come naturally to you? But it appears that you had a lot of experience before that actual national that day.
Well, I was lucky enough to travel with Barry Higgins, and he rode the Interam International, and I rode the sport class.
Okay.
So that was probably 69, maybe. That was the year at the end of the series, they loaded everybody up and flew us to Hawaii, and they had an international race in Hawaii. Now, in that race, I raced the international class, you know, if you want to call it that. I think Roger won that. And I placed like 7th or 8th. I did pretty well. So I was moving along, you know?
Yeah. It was a great conversation with Sonny DeFeo. We talked a lot about his dad, Ghost Motorcycles, and so many other things that were happening during that time. So if you get a chance, go over to Vintage Motocross Radio and listen to the Sonny DeFeo interview. This week, I have Doreen Payne. Doreen Payne, she was the first woman to really qualify with the men in an outdoor national. She also raced with the guys in Supercross as well. She had a very successful career in bicycle motocross, and she can still rip it up on a vintage CZ. We'll be talking to Doreen Payne this Sunday morning at 11 a.m. on Vintage Motocross Radio. Looking forward to speaking to her. Sad news out of New York yesterday. Scott Sheik, a very popular guy in District 36, rode throughout New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and really, really did well. Eventually got a ride with Team Honda, won a national event, went 1-1, I think it was at Redbud. And I remember Scott coming up in the mid-90s and watching him at a lot of tracks there in the Northeast. Unfortunately, Scott had an accident 2 weeks ago at Walden while practicing for Loretta Lynn's qualifier. He was airlifted out and had some serious internal injuries as well as some spinal injuries. The surgery went well. Things were looking up. Unfortunately, he contracted a staph infection as well as pneumonia, and Scott passed away yesterday. He leaves behind a wife and 2 children. Scott was just 47 years old. You can go to the Road to Recovery website if you want to donate to Scott, and we send our condolences to the Sheik family. Mill Creek Motocross Park, May 21st, 22nd, and 23rd, right around the corner in Coombs, Arkansas. There'll be an AHRMA vintage race out there, all the AHRMA classes. They'll have cross country. They'll have vintage racing, and there's some cross country going on as well. No, there's also some points going out to the central regional group. So if you're just a regional guy, but you're going to get points for your district at that AHRMA race coming up, May 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. It's right around the corner. In Topeka, Kansas, Heartland. In the Heartland, there's a great motorcycle event coming up there, and that also is just right around the corner too, May 28th through the 30th. This is really something you should be looking forward to if you're out in the Topeka, Kansas area. Why? Because there's camping, there's a bike show, there's exhibitors, there's all sorts of things going on all weekend, including the AHRMA National, and they'll have all the classes that you would expect, just like I mentioned in the previous announcement. So if it's vintage racing and cross country and just the overall great atmosphere that comes with vintage motocross, get out to Topeka, Kansas in the Heartland in 2 weeks. Pacific Northwest Vintage Motocross, another big race coming up in Pacific Northwest, May 29th and 30th. Get up there in the Great Northwest. Jordan Woodworth will be there Fritz Gunter, all the big guns. We were just talking about this with Dave Dewhurst just a moment ago, the Motocross Revival 2021. And it's sponsored by Yamaha. It is at the Glen Helen track on June 6th. And as David was just telling us, there's going to be a lot of things going on there. And there's a class for everybody. Minis, vintage, post-vintage, modern. You could sign up on that day. It is on June 6th, which I believe is a Sunday. Langston Motorsports is also going to be holding a bike show. And from what David just said, you're going to have some legends and heroes on board. Gary Jones is going to be coming out there. Kawasaki, Honda, and probably Yamaha are going to have some of the old works bikes on display. So if it's not on your calendar, you should get it on that calendar. June 6th at Glen Helen. American Retrocross is putting that event on. I look forward to being, I'm going to try and be there. I think I can make it. In my opinion, the second biggest comeback in history goes in Super Bowl 51, where Tom Brady and the Patriots were down 28-3 in the fourth quarter, came back to beat the Falcons and emerged victorious after being down 28-3 in Super Bowl 51. That is the second biggest comeback in history, in my opinion. What's the first biggest comeback in history? Mark Hildebrand. My buddy and yours, Mark Hildebrand, this week was released from the hospital COVID-free. Mark went through 10 weeks of being on a feeding tube and a ventilator. He went through a lot of different complications there when he was at the hospital, including a minor heart attack. He had a gallbladder problem, which they had to give him surgery on. And of course, everything that goes along with this dreaded pandemic, COVID-19. Well, just the other day, he was released from the hospital, and while he isn't exactly in rehab yet, he's in a facility that is a step down from the hospital. He's eating solid food. I actually spoke to him on the phone yesterday, and he has to go through some physical therapy yet to learn how to walk again. But he is out of the woods. He's on a little bit of a smoother road, and I just wanted to tell everybody about that the King of Kawasaki is back. And long live the king. We saw some pictures there with his beautiful daughter, Ashlyn, and his wonderful wife, Lynn. I wish Mark Hildebrand well, and prayers answered there, Mark. Hang in there, brother. Dirt Diggers. What a great organization. And usually, this is the weekend where the first national is held outdoors at Hangtown. But due to COVID and things getting all turned around, it's been put at the back of the schedule. It will be on September 11th this year, and it's going to be the last race of the year. So, my buddy Kevin Bridges and the Dirt Diggers sent me this great shirt. They wanted me to announce it here on the show, and I'm really looking forward to this event because if there's a real close points race throughout the outdoor season, you know, Webb, Tomac, all the boys, let's see what happens, because when they get up to Hangtown, that could be the deciding race. So, it's about 90 days out. Put it on your schedule. Dirt Diggers, Hangtown 51, Field of History, up there in Sacramento, California. The finish line, brought to you by Northwest Mako CZ. I would like you to buy all your parts for your Makos and CZs through Alan Brown at Northwest. And they got a special going on this week, a 36 millimeter Mikuni carburetor, regularly $139.99, 25% off this week, just $108.88. Go over to their website, not only for Mikuni carburetors. Alan Brown just has oodles of stuff over there for you, Makos and CZs, a lot of it very, very reasonably priced. He's even got some universal things that'll fit your other bikes as well. So next time you're out shopping for Mako and CZ parts, don't forget Alan Brown and Northwest Mako CZ. Vintage Motocross Q&A. We love your questions. We love your photos. Tonight, we saw a great little video sent in by Matt Erdos. He also sent in the bike this week that we had in the Moto Showcase. We've got a great one coming up next week. Pete Noneman has sent in a beautiful Jones Islow. I'm looking forward to bringing that to you on next Wednesday's show. But keep those questions and keep those bikes coming in. That's what really, really keeps the show interesting. And we love answering your questions, and we love showing off your bikes here on the show. And if you've got some good ideas that you want to share with us, you can make a video like Matt Erdos did, where you showed the comparison of those two Kawasaki's, or something you may be doing in your shop. Some little trick that you do while you're repairing your bike. We'd be interested in seeing a video on it. We'd be glad to put it here on the show. So keep those videos and photos coming in, guys. Vintage Motocross t-shirts and hoodies are still available. Follow the link in the description of the show for just $19.99 for the t-shirt. You can get them in gray and you can get them in white. The hoodie is just a couple of bucks more, but it's a great gift, and you should be buying one as soon as you can while they last. Vintage Motocross Q&A sponsorship opportunities are still available. We're reaching over 20,000 people a week, and that's just through Facebook. There's even more on YouTube. Get a hold of me. We'll put a budget together for you that fits you, and you could be reaching a lot of people every week the same way that little smaller companies like Sunrise Vapor Blasting or Northwest Mako CZ are doing, or some of the big guys like Motion Pro or Vinco. I'll put something together special for you, and you get on the show. And we also give you a plug on the radio show on Sunday as well, Vintage Motocross Radio. That wraps it up for Vintage Motocross Q&A for tonight. I want to thank everybody for watching the show, sharing the show. Don't forget to join us on Sunday for Vintage Motocross Radio, where my guest will be Doreen Payne. That's it from Antioch, California for this evening. I'll see if he's available. Hang on. Gino! Gino! Come on, boy! Come on, Gino! Come on, Gino! Gino, come on, boy. Come on, Gene. Oh, there he is. Oh. There he is.